So guys, we are here in the gym. We're going to train not particular big muscle groups, but a very important one, the abdominals. So I have been doing competitions since 2020. And the first few years, my abs were a strong point in my poses. The abs and thighs, or even like a front leg spread, like the abs actually showed. But over time, they started to fade away as I thought, hey, training abs, we already have the abs are made in the kitchen. Things like that go in your head and you think, I'm gonna keep these abs forever. But unfortunately, that isn't true, because at my last, I think, 3 contests, my abs have been actually weaker compared to my second contest in my life I ever did. So that's regression of muscle mass, and that's not what we want. So we are going to train the abs. I've been doing this for the last couple of months, way more seriously. Every other workout, I do at least 3 sets to 4 sets to failure for my abs to keep them in check, along with a vacuum exercise, and I'm going to show you exactly that. So we are going to start with this abdominal crunch. And I like to do this one the most because then I can control my abs, keep them tight, keep them in, full tension from all the way to the top to the bottom. So we're just going to do as many reps here as possible until failure, because just like any other muscle groups, the abs require progressive overload, require going close or to failure to actually progress in mass and appearance. So let's go. Those were around 20 reps, which is a good volume for the abs. If you go too heavy, you would actually use your obliques as well. Right now, I feel nothing in my obliques, but I feel the abs being fatigued, which is exactly what you want. Rest time should be within a minute. The abs don't need a lot of rest, in my opinion. And yeah, so we're gonna do this for 2 more sets, and after that, some vacuum movements. I'm using this attachment because it feels way more natural on the hands. Because if you see, normal gyms have this rope, but if you do a lot of weight, like this is 92 kilos, this presses very hard against your hand, which hurts, and then you're distracted by the pain in your hands compared to the actual abs. So we are using this grip, so this is just the close grip pull down attachment you can use for the back. You can use it for the abs as well. It just feels very natural to do, and you don't need any straps or anything at all. So let's go for the set number 2. And you want to go close to failure here, and if you reach absolute failure, again, just like when you go too heavy, you might include other muscles, so getting very close to failure with 1 rep in reserve, for example, is, in my opinion, the best way to develop the abs. 3rd working set for the abs. Yeah, that's a lot of lactic acid in the abdominals. I literally feel a pump in the abs right now. And just like I said, it's a muscle like all the others, so you want the same effect. You want the lactic acid to build up. You want the pump to be there, to be filled with blood. And now it's time to train the vacuum. So right now we did the rectus abdominis, and we also want to train the transverse abdominis, which is below the visible abdominals. So let's go. Okay, so we're gonna do this on the floor against gravity. So what we're going to do is you're simply gonna go on your knees, and when I'm performing this exercise, I can't talk because what you want to do, blow out all the air and then suck in your belly button to your spine. So because we're now facing the ground, the gravity is pulling down my stomach, so I have to pull it up. That is minimal resistance, but it's more resistance compared to when you lay in your back, when you're pretty much already almost doing a vacuum without doing anything at all. So first breathe out and then suck in the stomach. So let me show you from the side. I'm gonna do this a couple of sets. So basically what you want to do is do like 4 sets, and the most difficult thing here is actually not the exercise itself, it's keeping your breath. So holding your breath, so you can't breathe, and if you have a big body, it needs a lot of oxygen, so that's exactly what you need to practice. Not just the mind-muscle connection with the transverse abdominis, but mostly practicing not needing oxygen for a period of time of above 10 or more seconds. So you can see that I will be sucking my stomach in, and then once I breathe in again, what you want to do is control the abs so you don't actually push out your stomach, because you want to mimic as you were on stage. So let's go. Okay, so these vacuum movements are just basically a finishing movement for me, because I do these every single morning as well. When you wake up, you get out of bed, your stomach is empty, you haven't drank anything, you haven't eaten anything, so you can pull in the stomach even more, and the more you can pull in the transverse abdominis, the harder it contracts. So the harder it can contract, the more you can actually practice it for progressive overload. So as with any other muscle, even the TVA needs to be practiced under harder difficulties, situations, and in the morning, because you can have a fuller range of motion, basically, you can actually train it better. So I like to then do every other day my abs, rectus abdominis, and finish it off with some vacuums. But every single day I do the vacuums in the morning anyway, so I keep the practice in to make sure my waist stays as small as possible, making the rest of my physique a lot bigger. And today also is the very first day of my contest prep for the Arnold Classic UK. We're exactly 16 weeks out, so it's also time to do some meal prepping at home. So let's check it out, what my diet looks like. All right, we have arrived back at home in the kitchen, and we have been traveling through the Dutch rain, not a rare occurrence here in the Netherlands, but anyway. We are going to create a couple of meals which can be done quite quickly, because a lot of people, they don't even like to start the prep because it's a lot of effort. So I'm going to show you that at the same time you can create delicious meals, but it doesn't have to be difficult at all. So let's first start with the main ingredient, which is the carb source. And as I mentioned, this is the first day of prep. So the carb source will mainly be rice or cream of rice. So in the morning I had my famous, popular cream of rice breakfast. So now we're going to use rice in this crock pot. So first, make sure to wash it out a little bit. And we are going to create at least 4 rice meals right now. So we're going to get some rice. And the rice that I like to use is parboiled rice. So that means it's just white rice, but it has been pre-boiled, which removes all the outside starches and it allows it to become like a loose grain rice. So when it's done, it's not one clump, but it's actually loose. So let's add the amount of grams. And we need 4 meals of 130 grams, which means 520 grams in total. And we are there. So some people, they actually take out the grains of rice when it's not exactly 520, but I don't really mind that. So now the rice component is done, and you want to give this some flavor. As you guys all know, I'm a big fan of turmeric, but I don't think we have that left right now. So the only turmeric we have left is like this grinder. So it doesn't grind out a lot of turmeric, but you can see the yellowness, the goldenness coming out. And the end result, you will see this little powder will already transform this rice into the famous golden rice, which you guys all know. And then we can also add something different, like this is also very delicious. Caribbean spice, for example. There, let's see the ingredients, like some onion, some paprika or bell pepper, parsley, garlic. Just simple ingredients, so there's no salt in here yet. We're going to add it later. So this is like literally a simple blend, as you can see, all natural. So just put it in here, just by feel. As you can see, some pepper as well. And the only thing we need to add now is of course some salt. So this is going to be quite some grinds of salt I'm going to add. So there's 4 meals, which means I want about 6 grinds per meal. So that's 24 grinds of Himalayan pink salt. So let's go. Kaboom, that's 24 grinds. And this is only the base sodium content, because when the meal is done and you mix it with the vegetables and the protein source, I might even add salt on top of that meal itself, but this is just the base. So that's the rice. And now we are going to add some boiling water to it. So this is a cooker crane. I don't know, it's a Dutch concept, but this basically means the moment you turn this on, boiling water comes out. So you either want to use like a water cooker, which you just have on your countertop, or this very faucet, which actually gives you a boiling water. So let's see. There is 520 grams of salt in here, rice in here, and you want to use a little less than double the amount if you want perfect dry rice. So we're going to add a little bit more until we are at around this amount. So you can see this is a little less than double the amount of rice. So double the amount would be above a liter, so we're a bit below a liter. So we're gonna put this into the crock pot right here and turn it on. Make sure to mix this up. And by the way, one big difference compared to what I used to do before is before I used to add a lot of oil. And that is now the big change. So there's less rice and less fat with each meal, allowing for me to burn calories, obviously. So we're gonna do the rice setting, 12 minutes, and start it. And this gives you time to do other stuff, like prepare the vegetables. So as we are waiting for the rice, we are going to create the vegetables. So what I like to choose is low FODMAP vegetables like bell pepper, but also like zucchini. We're gonna use this whole, and also a whole bell pepper. And I also already have some vegetables done. So in this is what I like to create normally. And you can see we have some, we have the bell pepper, the zucchini, also some asparagus in here. So that's the usual mix I like to create, which makes the rice taste a lot better, more healthier, and it just looks more appealing. On top of this, we're gonna add the extra zucchini and extra bell pepper to spread out over the 4 meals. So obviously, first, you always wanna wash your vegetables. Some people, they think, oh, I can't stand the vegetables, or I can't take fruit because it doesn't digest well, or it makes my intestines irritate or form gas. Well, maybe it's actually the pesticides or the dirt, the poison that's on top, which is a possibility. So just make sure to dry it off. And this might seem something that, it's normal to do, but I know a lot of people who don't do this. So you can see the residue coming off. So that's just what you don't want. Just remember, I used to work in a cucumber greenhouse, which is pretty much the same as how these grow. And a lot of people, both Dutch people, but also foreigners, a lot of different cultures, they come there and they do their job for like 10 hours a day. And they cut the cucumbers with usually their bare hands with a knife. And then some other people put the cucumbers or the zucchinis in a crate. And then other people take it out of the crate and put it in a grocery store, and then people touch it. So not only other pesticides may be on there or other stuff to repel rodents and stuff or insects, but also other people touching the fruit and vegetables. So just always wash them. So right now we're just gonna cut this zucchini into little cubes. That makes it easiest to prepare and to eat and to mix up with the rice. So as you can see right here, just very easy to make sure everything is kind of evenly cut. And we're just gonna, after this, heat up a pan. And in that pan, we are going to prepare this along with the bell pepper, of course. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just to make sure, as I mentioned, keep it easy. You don't have to use any fancy techniques or anything. You have all the time in the world if you prioritize your bodybuilding lifestyle. Prepping should not be something that is hasty, but at the same time, not something that is difficult either. So we have cut this already. And now we need to find a large enough pan like this, kind of a wok pan, or however you say it in English. Turn on the stove. Now this is induction, which means it heats up quite quickly. If you have gas, you don't want to waste too much of it, especially right now, so you might want to turn that on at the last possible moment. And then this is baking spray. So normally I would use some oil in here, but right now we are only eating the calories that are on the plan. So make sure there's enough of this there. And then we're going to add the zucchini already to make space and to make room for the bell pepper to cut. All right, so all of it is added now, and make sure it's going to be evenly baked. Let's turn this off for now. Again, make sure to dry it off. And then we're gonna cut this. So what I usually like to do, and I know a lot of chefs have techniques for this, you just cut open one side and then open it up. And then first remove the seeds, of course, because those seeds you don't need. Those are not very pleasant to eat. And then you can, in most cases, quite easily just remove these strips just like that. So you can actually take the seeds out. If you cut them open carefully, you don't have to do a lot of effort to take out the seeds, because stuff like that is what repels people from prepping their food or even making vegetables. So they just go for the broccoli, just cook it and eat that every single day. But trust me guys, this will be way more tasty to eat in the long run, and it makes it easier to adhere to your diet. Long strips of the bell pepper. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We are not on MasterChef right now, so I'm not gonna pretend I can do this perfectly, because this is real life. You just want to cut it up and to again increase the exposure, the area that it's going to be cooked in, so it's actually cooked quicker. Just like that. Make sure to stir fry it a little bit like this. Now, since there's no oil in here, You need to mix it up a little bit more often, because if you add butter or oil, the main reason why you add it is to spread out the heat more evenly. So if you keep it like this, the bottom would burn and the top would not be cooked. So we're gonna keep this on for just a little while, allow it to soften up, and once it's a little soft, we can stir fry it and it'll be done very quickly. And now we're gonna need another pan, just a small one like this. And now we're going to prepare the protein source. We are going to choose something very delicious, in my opinion at least. So this is actually halibut fillet. So it's just a white fish. Looks like this, fairly normal, looks like codfish, for example. So we're just gonna use 2 of these pieces. And honestly, the protein source is the only thing that I don't really measure that accurately, because I know from my experience that this is about 200 to 250 grams of white fish, which is exactly what I need for my protein. But this tastes incredible, and I don't even have to use any herbs on this one. So all we're going to have to do, this one actually fits right on top of there. And this one will slowly defrost. And once that is defrosted, like in about 12 minutes, everything should be done. You can literally then create 3 meals without the protein source and 1 meal with the protein source, which I'm going to eat right after this. But the other 3 meals, I personally like to prep the protein source at the moment of eating the meal, because today I have that possibility. If you don't, then I have another tip for you. You can then buy, and most stores should have this in your area. For example, all of this is pre-cooked chicken. So defrost and serve. So that means you only have to defrost it and it's gonna be perfect. So it actually looks quite good already. So this is flash fried, I believe. Roasted, it says, so roasted chicken. And you know, even if you think it doesn't look good, trust me, it tastes quite incredible, especially when you make sure to defrost it slowly. So if you don't have time to prepare your protein source, you can always do stuff like this. So all we have to do now is wait for about 10 minutes and show you the end result. Alright, so the rice is done, and as you can see here, you also have a keep warm option. So you can even keep this in here and just take out the rice that you need every time, but I like to prepare it right away. We're gonna open it up. Here is all the rice we need, and as I mentioned before, just gonna use this to take it out. As you can see, it's not as golden as usual, but it's still golden. And now we can measure it here. So as you can see, this is 2200 grams. And I know that this thing weighs 770 grams. So what you then have to do is 2200, well, it's actually 2210 minus 770. And this is a total cooked weight of rice divided by 4. And now you know you need per meal 360 grams of rice to evenly divide everything. So that's a very easy way to determine that. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So then you take this off, and every time that you measure, you put it on 0 and you simply put in 360 grams. So that's pretty easy, right? And you can see here also, this is why I like parboiled rice. The rice is pretty, loose, individual grains of rice, which I like more than, the chunks of rice, which is all stuck together like basmati rice can be. So that's not what you, at least not what I want. So 360, and we're gonna do that for each and every container. And then of course, with the final meal, you don't have to measure it because you can just put the rest in here. And at the same time, my finger is starting to melt off because even this thing is not thick enough. 1 second break. Let's go again. So let's get as many grains of rice out, because in the off season, I don't really care, but in the prep, I just want everything, you know, you want to get as much volume as possible. Now we need to add the vegetables. So in this pan right here, I already added the asparagus from the previous container. So we have all the vegetables in here. So you can actually put this, you know, just around 150 grams, for example, with each meal. And then you know there's plenty of vegetables, because as I mentioned, rice is going to be the primary source of the carbs. So every time I eat rice, I eat vegetables, and that means I might eat 4 rice meals a day, which means 4 times 150. That is still 600 grams of vegetables. So that is plenty enough, especially when it's all kinds of vegetables like this right here. See, now the last meal might contain a little less. Doesn't matter as much. Just all about dividing it a little bit. And whenever I miss vegetables in one of the meals, I just add a little bit of cucumber to that meal to make sure there's enough there. Is we have the Tupperware containers, so we're just gonna let these cool off, and we're gonna put those in the fridge later on. But what we need now is, with this one, we need a protein source. So right here, let's take a look at the halibut. Look at that. Look at how much water escapes. That's why I mentioned it looks like quite a lot of white fish, but in the end, not a lot is coming out. So you always want to look out for that. Now we're just gonna, as you can see, it's a very smooth white fish. It just falls apart. You don't want to overcook this at all. So you just want to keep the pan a bit like this to make sure most of the water is away from the fish. And then you can see how much this actually is. So this is all just water that came out of the fish. So if you guys think that frozen fish is cheaper, sometimes fresh fish can actually be cheaper if you calculate how much fresh fish doesn't lose water, and this does. So anyway, we have the meal I'm about to eat. So I'm gonna eat this for like 4 times right now, and then the last meal will probably be an egg meal with some peanut butter, as that's usually in my plan that Stefan Kinzel, boss of Outlaw, my coach, gives me. And then I have this nearby. If this doesn't taste salty enough to my liking, I simply add a little bit more salt, and that is my salt sensor that I like to use. But anyway, I hope this showed you a little bit of how I like to prep my meals. Most importantly, don't forget to add flavor, and don't forget to add the vegetables. Both of those things will help you tremendously, either in the off season or the cutting phase, or even the contest prep, it doesn't matter. A lot more footage like this is coming. Let me know down below what you want to see more, because we have all the freedom to post and to make a lot more content. And don't forget to stay golden.